Hello, everybody, and welcome to Is It Kino? I am Mumkey Jones.
I'm not a stalker or anything.
you think
E-Rich
I,
here.
you think I look like a stalker?
Stalker?
We're talking about a very special movie, a made-for-TV documentary, the
Mm-hmm.
series or season and possible series finale of one of our favorite TV shows, possibly of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, for you, last Thursday they dropped their big 2 hour finale called Finding Francis. It took a pretty different direction from the rest of the series, and it was so special that we wanted
Mm-hmm.
to do a full Kino episode about it.
Yeah, this is a feature-length episode. We figured we could spare a Kino for it.
There's a lot to talk about. First of all, I would say this is a great culmination of everything that Nathan For You has been thus far, but also if you haven't seen any Nathan For You, which you should, but
Mm-hmm.
also it stands on its own as its own documentary, very intriguing, interesting, I dare say deep film
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, growing old and regret and loneliness and what it means to chase your dreams in favor of finding love. There's so much going on here in what is portrayed as just like a silly comedy bit, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting and emotionally intriguing to me. But what do you think about Finding Francis?
I absolutely adored this. It is basically, you're right, it is the culmination of 4 whole seasons of this show. But it's so weird because it's kind of its own thing since it's in a longer format than the normal show is. It is focusing on just one person for the most part, rather than talking to different businesses or whatever. And I think that in this hour and a half long documentary, Nathan Fielder actually shows that he can make serious while also with a slight comedic bent, but all of the comedy basically stems from people and the way people interact with one another. He can be a serious kind of filmmaker in a way, and I kind of would hope that instead of more Nathan For You, he goes around and makes these more long form documentaries with a very kind of comedic bent
Yeah,
than
I
do
like the
more Nathan
idea
For You.
of because the premise of Nathan For You is each episode he finds a struggling business and tries to help it with wacky ideas. But if
Hmm.
he did a new thing where he finds people who have like a big regret or like a problem in their life and he tries to help them,
Yeah.
I think that's the natural and preferred evolution of what he started here. But Erich,
Mhm.
what is the premise of Finding Francis for those who don't know? What is the story here?
All right. So back when Nathan For You was going, I think this was the second season of the show.
I think so.
Nathan did this stunt where he was going into a store, telling people that he was going. This is the right thing. I'm talking about the right thing, right?
Yeah, they were making a
Gift
fake
shop.
Johnny Depp movie at a store.
Yeah, yeah. So he's basically saying if people come in and buy something on camera, it will be a part of this movie that he's making. It was a fake movie entirely made to.
It was just to trick idiots in Hollywood
Yeah.
to buy souvenirs at a souvenir shop because they think that they're going to be extras in a Johnny Depp movie.
Yes, and as part of that, he thinks he needs more celebrities than Johnny Depp, so he hires this man who says that he's a Bill Gates impersonator, but all he seems to be able to do is look like Bill Gates slightly and nothing else.
He knows nothing about Bill Gates. He says like the most generic shit
When we were starting in the 80s, the
with the
computers
Microsoft computers.
were huge. They were the size of a room. That's basically all he knows. Like,
Right.
this is the laziest Bill Gates impersonator. But
Which
so
is hilarious on the show. It's great.
yes. So I went to a live Nathan For You event where I got to see the first episode of the fourth season or something. And during that event, he played for us the DVD commentary where they got this guy back to talk about the episode. And during this commentary, it's the funniest fucking thing because during the commentary, he doesn't seem to be watching the episode at all. He's basically doing his own thing throughout the whole thing. He takes a call from AT&T or something, and
yeah.
he's trying to cancel his contract or something. But then he keeps talking about that he should have married this woman, that he has this regret that he never pursued this woman that he's in love with, and he just kept bringing it up. And in this special that they did, he apparently kept coming back to their offices and kept talking about this woman.
Yeah, well, it's lonely old people. Like I was just at Target today, and
Yeah.
the poor lady at the register that I was waiting in line for had this old lady customer who just wouldn't stop talking to her because these
Oh my
old people,
God.
like if you give them eye contact, they just want to talk for half an hour.
Yeah.
Happened to me all the time when I was working at the hardware store.
Hmm.
And I think that this 80-year-old fake Bill Gates impersonator, who has never been married, like he got a little bit of attention from this crew of a TV show, and now he keeps showing up to the office with gifts because he
Yeah.
has nothing else to do, and it's really sad.
And he also memorizes Arkansas sports team statistics and stuff. There's a
Yeah.
great scene in this episode where they're trying to get a hypnotherapist or whatever to dredge up contact details for the woman he's looking for, and all he can remember is sports statistics. It is the funniest fucking thing.
Oh, and in case we haven't made it clear, this show it's real. It's not
Oh
scripted,
yeah.
as
Oh yeah.
some people might say, like, oh, if you it's got to be fake. No, this is a real dude, and it's very important that you keep that in mind as you watch this or as you listen to us talk about it.
And what's interesting at the live event, Nathan Fielder was asked a question about basically what is your relationship with the people that you find that you're able to convince to do some of the crazy shit you do. And basically he said they end up going through a lot of different businesses, asking them if they can be on camera for stuff. And you end up with the weirdest people usually who are willing to do that shit.
That makes
Or
sense to me.
yeah, yeah, and you see that oftentimes in the show. So basically, he was by pure happenstance able to meet up with this Bill Gates impersonator guy,
Who
and
also happens to be named Bill.
yes, yes. And so let's get into some of the, I guess, deeper emotional beats of this thing because it is
Well, we
quite
haven't even
fun.
established the premise yet. So
Okay,
the idea is that Bill keeps showing up to the office and he keeps complaining about this woman who he dated in his 20s, so over 50 years ago, and like how he regrets so much that he didn't marry her, and they were like so much in love, and like his mom didn't like her and stuff. And he keeps talking about this, and Nathan thinks, you know what? This show has a lot of resources, and Comedy Central is paying us so much money. What if we do an episode where we help you find this woman who you don't have any contact info on, or you don't even know her name anymore? Like you know her maiden name, but it's not relevant.
yeah.
What if we just go find her, and that'll be the episode? And Bill is like, oh, well, let's do it, and that turns into a 2-hour incredible documentary.
Yeah, it is quite a wonder to watch, and I'm wondering whether they intended for this to just be a regular length episode, and then they realized that they could really extend it and make it really weighty. But I mean,
From
like,
what I read,
yeah,
yeah, they thought it was just going to be a normal episode, but then they had
okay,
so much material that they asked Comedy Central, "Can we do this as a 2-hour finale?" And they said, "Yeah, whatever, who cares?" So then
yeah,
they just did it.
because they are able to layer in the kind of the normal stuff that the Nathan For You show entails. Like they throw a 57th reunion, high school class
47th
reunion.
reunion.
All right, and basically it's the shittiest looking event in a small church, and they get about 5 people to come in, and it's just kind of hilarious that they're able to do that. And then they say that they are the cast and crew of Mud 2.
Never clean.
Never
The-
clean.
Just we're just jumping around right now, but the shot of Nathan and this old fucking Bill wearing hats that say Mud 2 as if they're the panel on the casting of this movie was so fucking funny.
And the lines they have the actor guy read
Yeah.
as a part of it. Oh my god.
Clearly, this guy who had a brief shot in Mud 1 never saw the movie because he's reading lines for Mud 2, and it's like the plot is that there's mud everywhere and they have to clean it up, and
Yeah.
the guy is convinced that it's a real deal.
I can't believe that this happened again. Yeah, it like
Mud is the name of the character. There's no mud in the movie.
it breaches believability, but then you realize these are real people who really think this is going on. And
Well, it's just some random guy who was in a background shot of a movie that was filmed
Yeah.
in Arkansas. Like, yeah, you can't expect him to actually know what the fuck the
and
movie's
then
about.
they do this to get into a school to look at their yearbooks, and the school basically just lets them in and lets them do whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it's so weird because the lengths they go sometimes to do some of this shit is extraordinary. But then you also see how little people actually need in order for them to at least base level trust you to do something. And it's such a great interplay of, I don't know, what people want to do versus what they want to see. It's so great. Okay, so Bill is trying to find his love. Uh, at one point, they find letters that she wrote to him, and they reveal more and more detail about what their torrid love affair was exactly, and that Bill might be hiding a little bit more, or actually not remembering some things. He might have the rose-colored glasses on when he's looking back at this relationship. When it's revealed that like he kind of maybe was pressuring her to have sex with him, and she wasn't quite ready to go that far, or she was more religious than he was. I'm not entirely sure what the exact nature of that was, but it's such an interesting exploration of this man who, like, he was very good looking when he was
Yeah.
young. So like that's not something you apply to old people. You don't ever think this guy was really good looking at some point, and he was probably trying to get into a woman's pants all the time. That's just not something you think of when this old Bill Gates guy is talking about the computers in their basements and stuff like that. It's just, it blows your mind at so many levels.
Yeah, it is sad but true that you kind of don't think of anybody except for the state that they're currently in.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because you're right. When I see, old people out on the street, I don't really think of them in their heyday. And like, oh yeah, they used to be, a 22-year-old retard
Yeah.
just like me,
They were trying to
milling
fuck.
about. Yeah, they were just trying to fuck. Now they're just old people in a retirement home trying
They're
to
still
fuck.
trying to fuck, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird disconnect of like, oh yeah, I guess that is a fully fledged human being with like a long history. But like, yeah, I just see an old person. Maybe I'm a sociopath, but yeah, it's
No,
it's
I think
interesting
we do.
to unpeel the layers of a human being and realize that there's so much more than they currently appear to be.
It's much harder to look at everyone as their own kind of individual person. It's so much easier to just look at somebody and say, old person, old person, old person.
Yeah.
Like, basically, they're already dead to you. But I mean, what this documentary does is it unveils the inner life of someone who did not have the shot at life they wish they had. Basically, he went to Hollywood, I guess, to try to be an actor or a singer, and they don't really go into that part of his life a whole lot. I guess he just never got anywhere for the most part. But he had only been Bill Gates impersonating for
Like
a
3
year.
years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Like, what was he doing in the last 50 years? They don't really
Evidently,
talk about that a whole lot.
yeah, I think the tragedy of the documentary is that he's
Uh-huh.
in his mid-20s and he has the love of his life and he decides to leave her in Arkansas to go pursue a career in Hollywood, and the career didn't really take off and he didn't achieve his dreams, and now he's a man in his 80s who has never been married and is just so full of regret and remorse that he didn't marry this woman. And now he's dead set on finding her and getting married to her, even though they're both in their fucking 80s now.
Yeah.
And he's such a bizarre guy because like we just know him from a season 2 episode where he showed up and did a really shitty Bill Gates impersonation and it was hilarious. And like, yeah, it's like, we see an old person as an old person. We see this guy as just, oh yeah, he's the funny Bill Gates impersonator on episode 3 of season 2, Nathan For You.
Yeah.
But this documentary takes one of these weird people from the show and they're like an onion and we're just fucking peeling back all these layers and seeing how, complex and weird and sad and kind of deranged, everyday human beings are.
Yeah.
And just all this stuff. When they're at the retirement, or no, they're at the fake 47-year anniversary
reunion.
Yeah, there's just like they don't even play it for laughs. There's all these really sad shots of like the old people talking, and they say, "Oh yeah, did you hear about Hank Williams? Oh yeah, I heard he passed. Oh yeah, what about Shelley? Is she coming on? No, she's dead too." Like that's the reality for these people now. Like all the people that they were friends with in high school are
now
dead.
dead. Yeah.
It's so fucked, and like we don't even know if the woman Bill is in love with is dead either. That's one of the other big worries in the movie.
It's a possibility, yeah.
Oh, there's so much going on, and then we haven't even gotten into the B plot that unfolds. That is just so meta that it's going to be difficult to convey.
It is also the ultimate kind of culmination
finale for Nathan For You.
Yeah, exactly. Of everything that Nathan as his, and I'd say it's more of a character that he's putting on than anything. But
he said that it's based on a previous version of him, like how he was
Yeah,
really awkward
yeah.
when he was younger.
Yeah, so basically a culmination of A. Nathan Fielder and his kind of journey throughout these seasons of the show, where he has had a somewhat relationship before. There's somebody on a fucking motorcycle circling my goddamn house. I don't know if I owe a gang money or what. Fuck off, Hell's Angels.
Yeah,
I
fuck
paid my
off.
dues.
Just like that episode of South Park, just yell fags.
That'll work.
Yeah, you'll show him.
All right. So basically, like I think he's tried to have relationships before within the show, and then last season he dressed up as someone else, did a high wire stunt, said that I need to be your girlfriend's boyfriend for this amount of time, or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, it like basically you should watch the entire show. If you watch this, you can just watch this and be fine. But it is so worth it to just go back and watch the entire show.
Yeah. It resonates emotionally on a whole new level if you've seen the entire show and see Nathan, try to grow out of being a lonely, weirdo who is really bad at socializing and just is so lonely, and he gets dubbed the Wizard of Loneliness at one point by a private
the saddest
investigator.
private investigator as well.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is there's a thematic tie between Bill and Bill's search for this love that he lost. I mean, like basically he didn't have this opportunity, and then Nathan is seeing this same thing, and this could possibly be him in the future, and he doesn't want that to happen, so he's going.
And what's so deep about it is that that's not even like a part of the Nathan character. I think this actually means something to him as a person, that he is. Yeah. He's so invested in working in Hollywood and doing this sort of thing that his real life relationships are failing. Like real life Nathan, he got divorced 2 years ago, and I mean I wouldn't be surprised if it had to do with he's too invested in his work or whatever the fuck. So Nathan sees Bill made this choice so long ago when he was in his youth that has just devastated him for the rest of his life. And now Nathan is like, should I stop doing this show and invest myself in like having a relationship? And I don't know if you saw this, but there's like, I don't know if it was a deleted scene or a hidden code, but did you see that in the, what's it called when they put the text on the screen for a show, the captions or whatever the hell?
Yeah, closed captioning.
Did you see the hidden message in the closed captioning?
Well, no, I don't think I did.
Yeah, there's like lines of dialogue in there that weren't actually in the show, where Nathan and Bill are sitting in a bar, and Nathan is saying, I looked at this old man and saw, myself in him and how he abandoned, having love to have his dream in Hollywood. But then in the closed captioning, when nobody is saying anything, it says, it's sort of like me doing the same show for 4 years, or like something like that. I'm like, what? Did they put that in on purpose? What the hell? Why is that there? Is that a hidden clue that they're not? It might be a hidden clue that they're like not going to do the show anymore. Like this might be the finale.
It wouldn't surprise me if this is kind of their last kind of effort on this front. I'd wish they do more stuff like this with the show, but it wouldn't surprise me if this is their last kind of outing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great way to end it, I think. But we didn't even get to the B plot. The B plot is that in his quest to help Bill through some shenanigans, Nathan ends up hiring an escort. Mm-hmm. And she charges $350 an hour. And this is when it starts getting super meta, because he is growing feelings for this escort, I'm guessing in character, not in real life. Yeah. And he keeps hiring her over and over again just to have somebody who pretends to be interested in him. And like she's an escort. She gets paid to pretend to care about this guy, and then when the time's up, she leaves. And she only wants to hang out with him if she's getting paid for it. And Nathan sort of realizes he's doing the same thing. He's the escort for all of these people who he gets on Nathan For You, where he's only pretending to be invested and care about these people because he's getting paid for it. And they sort of grow this weird relationship where they're leeching off of each other at the same time. Like she's the first person in Nathan For You history who has seen the show because he shows it to her. Mm-hmm. So she knows what's going on, but she still continues showing up and getting paid because she's getting the money for it. And then he keeps, paying her to use her for her company. So it's this weird, is it a symbiotic relationship when you're dependent on the other one, but you're like, taking advantage of each other,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. And it's a very meta narrative of Nathan realizing that he is just like this escort and is just sort of using people to get
Yeah.
paid.
I do think there is an element of chicken to this where they're both kind of seeing if the other one will push it forward more than is entirely appropriate, or it kind of is their want in the situation. Where if Nathan had said, "Let's have sex," or like, I mean, she can't. I don't know. This is going to sound weird. She can't say no because she's kind of hired for that very purpose. But they're on
It's not that she
camera.
can't say no, but she
Uh-huh.
wouldn't say no.
No, exactly. And I mean, like, they're on camera, so it's entirely based on she knows that she's on the show, he knows he's on the show. They're both kind of behind these facades of, like, a career. So
Right.
it's an entirely interesting proposition to watch this. And he is doing the most chaste, just plain kisses. Like, no tongue, nothing interesting going on there. Just kiss, kiss. Like, it is funny as fuck.
And I almost had to turn it off in that scene where they're just kissing for like a full minute. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Nathan, why? Why'd you include this? I can't stand to watch it. It's so fucking awkward. You're so bad at kissing. What are you doing?
What is hilarious to me is that from a post-production angle, you are basically watching something, whatever you're making, you're watching that endlessly. You're editing it, you're figuring out what to do. He has to, if he is involved in the editing, or actually anyone, because anyone would be embarrassed by whatever the fuck he's doing. Whoever was watching that, it must have been pure pain to watch that again and again.
Oh, yeah.
Wondering what to edit out, what to keep in. Like, who fucking knows how much footage there was of him in this escort? It's fucking great. Holy shit.
Okay, so should we dive into the resolution of this documentary, of this
Yeah,
great
yeah.
quest
Can we talk
of,
about
of,
Can we talk about the play they put on first though?
Sure, go. That's kind of fucked too, because they do
Yeah.
a bit of role play where Bill, pretends to be himself and how he's going to interact when he finally finds this woman he's looking for.
Yeah.
And then they switch it up and have him pretend to be her, and it's so like it's just sad.
Yes. Like the play part was maybe my favorite part of the entire episode. It reminds me of a documentary. It's a very sad, very awful experience to watch this, but it's called The Look of Silence. Or wait, it's either that or The Act of Killing. They're both about the same thing. It's basically this guy goes to the Philippines, and then he has these people who committed genocide basically reenact them committing genocide. And while I was watching this Nathan For You thing, all I could think of was he's basically having them put on and pretend to be something that he's wanted to do all his life, and you see bits of himself leaking out into, like, he knows he's being filmed, he knows he's on camera, but he's like going at this woman's leg to like feel her up and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
you see these things leak out, and then when the role play part gets switched and he has to be her, he's all of a sudden like poking at and negotiating what it's like for her to have him come into her life again after all these years and after cheating on her and all of that stuff. And it's such a great, just, you can see all of these things on these characters' faces, or these people's faces actually.
Yeah.
And then the weirdest thing is this actress in this situation where she has no fucking idea, this Bill Gates impersonator guy. But yeah, and then the husband comes into the equation and he really wants to beat up the husband.
Yeah, because they eventually find the woman on Facebook after finding the tombstone of her parents.
Yeah,
and it's devastating to watch as they go to her Facebook page, and he's like, oh yeah, that's her, that's got to be her.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sees that she's married and that the husband is still alive, and
he's so angry. He is so angry that she's married,
because and it makes complete sense to me that you've been sitting here for 50 years of your life. Like, I'm not even half that old. He's lived such a long life of just stewing in guilt and regret for how he treated this girl who he is so in love with. And he keeps saying over and over, she said that she's going to love me to her grave. she'll love me to my grave. That's what she said. That she has to love me forever. And it's obsession. It's
Yeah.
just the point of obsession and self-hatred for what he did, and he wants to make it right and to fulfill his life's fucking dream of marrying this woman. And he finds out, oh yeah, she's married.
Yeah.
Well, and it just goes to pure rage. And he says, "You know what? I'm gonna have her leave him for me." When they're acting it out, he walks in and he. There's a really funny part where he's yelling at the actor playing the husband, saying like she's gonna be my wife. Don't you speak English?
Yeah. The levels of delusion at play that he has kind of talked himself into thinking that she would realistically leave her husband and come back to him. And so,
And that's the realistic result of 50 years of
Yeah.
pent up obsession.
But as toxic as parts of like him reacting to things and him coming onto this actress woman who's like, all of that stuff kind of starts to fall away when it's him not being able to get out of the car and actually
Oh my god!
go to her.
yeah.
He chooses to call instead of
Yes, so
going in.
they find out her address from Yellow Pages or whatever, or White
Yeah.
Pages, and they drive to her house, and they're sitting at the end of her driveway, and she doesn't know anything that's going on at all. And Nathan says, "You know what? We're gonna leave the cameras back here. We don't want to scare her or anything. Just go up to the house and say hi or whatever."
Yeah.
And Bill is too afraid to get out of the car, and
Yeah.
they just sit there for 10 minutes, and he can't muster up the courage to do it, so they decide to call her first. And the conversation, it goes on for a while, and it's like a boring on the surface.
Yeah.
It's a boring conversation between two old people catching up, but now that we know all the context for it, every moment is just so heartbreaking to watch. And Nathan, Bill is so weird because he won't say who he is, and he expects her to be as obsessed with him as he is with her.
Yeah.
So he expects her to remember what his voice sounds like 50 years later, as if his voice didn't change. And Nathan is just like begging him, like, just tell her who you are. What are you doing? Just tell her who you are. And it's so just sad and bizarre to watch this old man as his dreams are ultimately crushed.
And this is kind of like the wildest dreams of documentary like greatness is basically you have him at this huge turning point where the thing that he's been aching to do all of his life is right there in front of him, and he just can't get out of the car. Like he kind of has faced up to the reality of his life, and he's able to have this small conversation. And like I kind of hope that he's able to call her still and maybe talk to her and become friends again, but like he has to realize all of the crazy shit that is in his head, that they're going to get back together, that all of the love that he has for her is reciprocated. And I think she does recognize him. She does kind of understand who he is, but all of the fantasies he's got going on in his head are not going to actually like come to be. And he kind of has to be okay with that. We should also point out the part where he says that Trump is going to win, which turned out to be completely true.
It's great. Nathan and Bill are in a hotel together, and they're watching, I think, the first or the second Trump versus Hillary debate. And Bill just says, "Oh, yeah, Donald H. Trump," because he thinks his middle name is H. Donald H. Trump, you can't trust the polls. That guy's going to win. You'll see on Election Day. And Nathan's like, "Yeah, whatever the fuck, okay." So, you can just imagine that as they're editing this, post-election, and they see that clip, they're like, "We got to throw that in there." Like, this is just like a boring-ass clip, but given history, this is great. We got to throw this in there.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's great that, like, as crazy as he is and as obsessed and as kind of he lives in a fantasy land as he is, he was able to call that fact out that Trump was going to win. And then I love the exchange between him and Nathan, where Nathan says, "Yeah, but the polls say he's not going to win." And then he says, "Polls and Election Day are very different things," or something. It's like, damn, he was right.
Yeah, it was incredible because how much footage is there of people, saying, "Oh yeah, Hillary has to win. It's going to be Hillary," and then to see the opposite of this guy saying what actually is going to happen in the future. It's really funny to see post results.
Yeah, I'm glad they kept that in.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the whole thing. We have this this again sort of deep and complex final scene of Nathan and the escort. He flies back to
Yes,
go have
yes.
another date with her, and she's like, "Well, do you want to do this with the cameras off?" And he
Hmm.
sort of has to think like, if I turn off the cameras, then like the facade is over. I'm no longer in character. Do I actually want to spend time with this person off camera?
Hmm.
And like we don't. I don't know. It's just like an interesting, you know, fork in his life of which
Yeah.
direction is he going to go down? Is he going to keep doing this shit, or is he going to break character and be his actual authentic self and actually talk to somebody?
Yeah, and the last shot is a drone shot of the camera pulling away and going out and out and out to like see the entire landscape of where they are. It's a great final shot. I kind of hope that's all they do because it's kind of a great culmination of the entire show and kind of his journey and Bill's journey and just everything. It's a fucking great episode of the show. It's a great documentary on its own. You basically don't need to watch anything else to have this work. This is a great fucking piece of entertainment, no matter
It's
what.
the Blade Runner 2049 of Comedy Central documentary films, where it's great on its own, but it's
Hmm.
deeply enriched if you've seen the original.
Absolutely. It is
Man,
Kino.
yeah, it's one of the most Kino experiences I've had on television. They said, as to hype people up for it. They said this is
Yeah.
unlike anything you've ever seen on television before, and I was like, yeah, okay. But it really was. It really
It is.
moved me. It made me think more than actual movies have done in
Yeah.
recent
Oh,
memory.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and then
And
the last thing I kind of want to say about the whole thing is like Bill is such a kind of tragic figure of a person
oh, it's so sad.
as a character. And if you just think he is one person, there's a shitload of people like that out there.
Yeah, there's
You go
7 billion of us.
you go to any fucking Walmart, that place is filled with people like that.
Oh,
Like,
it's full of bills.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that's just a bill is a small sample size of most of the population, most likely. So,
And I'm sure, yeah, the vast majority of people have their own, dark past and
yeah,
these regrets that they hold. And the movie, in a way, is inspiring to, don't become the 80-year-old man who still lives with this terrible regret. Like maybe
yeah.
maybe act on it now before it's too late, and you waste your whole life feeling pain.
Carpe fucking diem, man.
Open the gates and seize the day.
That's
Don't
right.
be afraid. Rich, I think that's all I want to say. Other than you should definitely watch Nathan for You. It's going to be the funniest television experience you have in recent memory. It's
Yeah,
one of my favorite shows I've ever seen. The great place to start is season 3, episode 1, called Electronics Store, where he
yeah.
tries to rip off Best Buy.
Oh yeah, that
Um,
what
but
this show
what
needs more than anything is evangelists. It needs someone to go. If you have a friend who hasn't seen it, go show it to them. Go say, "Hey, watch this show." At the live event I went to, that's what Nathan has said like over and over again. Is it's the fans who tell people you need to watch this thing because
Yeah,
people
that's the
won't do it
thing.
on
If you just tell somebody the premise, like, oh, okay, that sounds like whatever. But when you actually sit somebody down and they watch it, they
Yeah,
get it and they love it. And that's the experience I've had like 10 times now with different people. When I tell them about the show, they go, oh yeah, maybe I'll watch it. But when I force them to watch it, they want to keep watching.
yeah,
What
absolutely.
episodes would you recommend as a jumping point?
I think the Best Buy episode, you're right. Like that when I went to show a friend a clip of it, that's what came up was him basically having all the stupid rules. Oh, also I guess the episode where he takes people on a camping trip basically in order to redeem a
Yeah,
gas
that's the gas
rebate.
rebate episode. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that one is fucking great.
And also Dumb Starbucks is it's phenomenal
That
in
is a
its own right.
classic because of how big it was. I guess the
Yeah.
pig saving the duck or whatever.
That was the original viral hit that he did. That was on every news station. He does a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
things. Like you've probably accidentally seen a news report of one of Nathan's stunts and didn't even know it.
yeah,
Just this
absolutely.
season, he was on. Was it Jimmy Fallon? Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah.
He was on Jimmy Kimmel and told like a big story, and then he had a whole episode about how that story was made up and how he set out to make it real, just so
Yeah.
he wouldn't be proven a liar. So, and you've probably seen like a news report of like one of his dumb stunts, like the dumb Starbucks thing, or he made a fake viral video of what was it, a pig saving a something?
A goat. It was a baby goat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
And
so
like just that little video has such great, like, because the guy who's talking over the video is that Santa guy or whatever. Do you
I don't
remember that?
remember.
The mall
I don't
Santa
remember.
who was arrested for drunk driving or something, and
it's been a while
Oh my
since I saw
God.
that one.
like basically there is a huge Nathan for You cinematic universe of connections, and it's so great.
Yeah. And if you're convinced that you're gonna like it, just start at episode 1, season 1, and watch it in order all the way through, and you'll see
Yeah,
Nathan
man.
go on his journey of discovery and loneliness.
Do it.
So yeah, Super Kino. This might be our longest Kino episode yet, as it should
Deserves
be.
it. Yeah.
It's just an amazing thing that everybody needs to go enjoy. If you're
Yeah.
depressed and you got nothing to do, you have no fucking excuse to not watch the show and cheer yourself up and have some fun for 22 minutes a day.
Yeah, you're gonna have fun. You're gonna reflect on your life choices, and maybe you can make a better person out of yourself. So fuck off, retard, and do it.
Yeah. All right. For Is It Kino, I have been Mumkey Jones.
And I am you, Rich.